When an engine stands the test of time, outlasting trends, tech shifts, and entire automotive eras, it becomes more than just metal and horsepower. It turns into a legacy. For over 50 years, this powerhouse ruled both streets and racetracks, setting the bar for performance and durability. So what made it so special? Let's dive into the story of the engine that powered America for half a century. You see, when you look at the American car scene, there's no denying that Chevy's small block V8 engine shook things up. It had all the big car companies scrambling to keep up when it hit the streets in 1955. But while that small block V8 became an icon of American muscle, it wasn't actually new to Chevy in the 50s. In fact, Chevy had already taken a shot at a small block engine way back in 1917. That first attempt came with the 1917 Series D, where Chevy dropped a small block V8 into 3,000 of those models, aiming to give drivers reliable power. But here's the catch. It wasn't exactly a game changer. The four-cylinder engine in the cheaper Series FA Chevy made more power, which made the Series D's V8 look unnecessary. So before it could really take off, Chevy pulled the plug. Even though the Series D V8 didn't impress, Chevy wasn't about to give up on the idea. They were determined to get a V8 right. Their biggest motivation? The Blue Flame straight-six engine, which powered the Corvette in 1953 and 54. Customers weren't happy with it, calling it underpowered, something the 150 horsepower output in the 53 model made painfully clear. That's where Ed Cole came in. As an engineer at Chevy, he gave his team a challenge: build a V8 that was lightweight, powerful, affordable, and versatile enough to fit across multiple Chevy models. They had plenty of missteps along the way, but then one of Cole's engineers, Don McPherson, sketched out an entire design that changed everything. The moment Cole laid eyes on it, he knew they were onto something big. He led the charge, pulling together ideas and parts from across GM to fine-tune the design. And by 1955, Chevy's small block V8 was born. That year, Chevy made history, rolling out the 265 TurboFire V8 in the Bel Air and Corvette. That little powerhouse gave the Corvette a solid 195 horsepower, but Chevy wasn't stopping there. By 1956, they'd refined it even further, offering 3 versions of the engine, with the top-tier model cranking out 250 horses. Just like that, Ed Cole's vision, an engine that was practical, affordable, and packed with power, became a reality. Dubbed the Mighty Mouse, this small block V8 quickly built a rep for being easy and cheap to modify. And Chevy leaned all the way into that throughout the 1950s. The engine was so reliable and capable that it kicked off a race among automakers, all scrambling to match what Chevy had created, but nothing quite measured up. Before long, gearheads were swapping small block Chevys into cars that weren't even Chevys, which just goes to show how special this engine really was. By its third year, the small block Chevy got even better. The standard 265 still put out 162 horsepower, but Chevy decided to take things up a notch by increasing the cylinder bore to 3.875 inches, pushing the displacement up to 283 cubic inches. At first, they used the same engine block as the 265, but those thinner cylinder walls led to overheating issues. Chevy quickly caught on and redesigned the 283 engine blocks to fix the problem. They called this new version the Super TurboFire, and it came in multiple flavors to suit different needs. By 1962, Chevy had made the 170 horsepower version of the 283 its standard V8. But the real excitement was in the upgraded small block V8s with a bigger bore, now a full 4 inches, and a longer 3.25-inch stroke. These engines grew to 327 cubic inches. Buyers had options too. The 327 came in 250, 300, or 340 horsepower, depending on the 4-barrel carburetor and compression setup. And for those wanting even more power, the Corvette still had its mechanical fuel injection, pushing out an impressive 360 horsepower with an 11.25-to-1 compression ratio. That 327 small block reached its peak 3 years later, making 365 horsepower with a 4-barrel Holley carburetor, or an even stronger 375 with the Rochester Ram jet fuel injection. It was an impressive engine, but by mid-1965 it had to make way for something bigger: the 396 cubic inch big block, which took over the Corvette. Still, the 327 remained a staple. It stuck around as the standard engine, offering either 300 or 350 horsepower. In Chevy's regular lineup, it continued as an upgrade from the 283s and later the 307s. For the Corvette, it stayed as the base engine. Then came the Camaro, Chevy's answer to the Mustang. It wasn't just about competing in the entry-level market. The Camaro brought two important small-block engines to the table. One of them was the 302 cubic-inch V8, a real race-ready powerhouse. Chevy got creative with this one, combining the 327's block with the 283's crankshaft to crank up the performance, and of course, it had that classic Chevy style, decked out with a chrome air cleaner, rocket covers, filler tube, and cap. For those who opted for the Z28 package, the 302 delivered 290 horsepower at 5,800 RPM and 290 pound-feet of torque at 4,200 RPM, at least on paper. Many believed Chevy underrated it. Z28 buyers even found a set of tubular headers in the trunk. Once those were installed, with the right carburetor jet and ignition tuning, the output jumped to around 376 horsepower. Race engines with dual carburetors could push as high as 465 horsepower. Over 3 years of production, more than 19,000 Camaro buyers went for the Z28 package, and it's easy to see why. After the success of the 302, Chevy rolled out the 350 V8 as an option for the 67 Camaro, marking its debut as a performance upgrade. The 350 delivered 295 horsepower and was initially reserved for the Super Sport package, but that didn't last long. The L48 version of the 350 soon found its way into nearly every Chevy model, from the Chevelle and El Camino to the Chevy 2 or Nova. The engine featured a 4-bolt main, a hydraulic cam, cast pistons, and a 4-barrel quadrajet carburetor. Officially, it was rated at 300 horsepower, but like most Chevy V8s, the real output was likely higher than advertised. The L48 even came close to matching the big block 396's 325 horsepower, yet it was lighter and more affordable, making it a go-to choice for many buyers. But if there was one 350 that stood out, it was the LT1, not to be confused with the 5.7-liter from the 90s or the LS-based V8. The original LT1 made its name in the 1970s Corvette, where it cranked out 370 horsepower. The Camaro Z28 got the same engine, but Chevy rated it at 360 horsepower because the Corvette always got the best numbers. The LT1 even made waves in NASCAR, where teams tuned it to a staggering 425 horsepower. It was the kind of engine that left enthusiasts wondering what could have been if Chevy had put that high-performance version in a production car. The 350 quickly became Chevy's go-to engine, powering everything from muscle cars to work trucks. Its versatility was unmatched, with some versions reaching over 370 horsepower in models like the Corvette ZR1 and Camaro Z28. Chevy had always been about evolution, and just like they had put their legendary small block in the first Corvette, they introduced the second generation of that engine, now called the LT1, in the 1992 Corvette. It shared some DNA with the original, but brought modern upgrades, including a new cooling system, water pump, pulley setup, and intake manifold. Even with these changes, Chevy kept key components like the mounts and bell housing the same, making it easy for drivers to swap the new engine into older Chevys. It was another example of how Chevy's small block V8 philosophy kept performance and adaptability at the forefront. Right from the start, the LT1 proved itself in the 1992 Corvette, producing 300 horsepower and 330 pound-foot of torque. It didn't stay in just the Corvette either. Chevy put it in the Camaro, Firebird, and even the Impala SS. That 1994 Impala SS was a sleeper hit, with a 4-door sedan pumping out 260 horsepower and 330 pound-foot of torque. But even with all its success, the LT1's time was short-lived. Chevy was already deep into development of the Gen 3 small block, the engine family that would become the LS series. Though the first and second generation small blocks had plenty in common, the third generation was a full redesign. Chevy overhauled the cylinder heads for better power and airflow, introduced a new camshaft, intake, and coil near plug ignition system. All of these changes made the LS1 more powerful than its predecessors. Take the 1996 Corvette, for example. It was pushing 345 horsepower and 350 pound-foot of torque. But Chevy wasn't done yet. They knew the LS1 had more in the tank, so they went back to the drawing board. bigger camshaft, higher compression, a redesigned intake. Just like that, the LS6 was born. And this wasn't just any upgrade. This was a full-blown performance monster. Dropped into the Corvette Z06, it took things to a whole new level. 405 horsepower, 400 pound-foot of torque, and a whole lot of attitude. The LS6 turned the Z06 into a road-dominating beast, proving once again that Chevy's small-block V8s were built to push limits. And as time went on, Chevy kept that same energy, rolling out newer, meaner, and more powerful versions. In 2005, they unleashed the LS7, a 427 cubic inch powerhouse, the biggest small block they had ever made. This wasn't just about size, it came packed with new tech-like variable valve timing, squeezing out an incredible 505 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. At the time, they made it the most powerful engine in both Chevy and GM history, but they didn't stop there. The LS7 paved the way for the LS3, which roared into the 2008 Corvette before making its way into the Camaro SS and the Chevrolet SS in 2010. Then came the LS9, a supercharged 6.2-liter beast that Chevy dropped into the Corvette ZR1. This engine didn't just make history, it rewrote it. With 638 horsepower, the LS9 became the most powerful small-block Chevy had ever built. But even the mighty LS9 had its time. Enter the LT5, the fifth-generation small block, built to dominate. Debuting in the C7 Corvette, this engine took performance to a whole new level. A stronger crankshaft, a bigger supercharger, and an upgraded oiling system made sure of that. And if there's any doubt about its capabilities, just look at the numbers. 755 horsepower. Just like that. The best part? Chevy isn't backing down. While other automakers are phasing out V8s, Chevy is gearing up for the future. The next evolution, the Gen 6 small block, is expected to debut in the C9 Corvette, possibly around 2027 or 2028. Chevy clearly doesn't believe in the saying, "all good things must come to an end." The small block V8 has been evolving for 5 generations, proving time and time again that it's not just an engine, it's a piece of American car culture. And for those searching for a used Chevy, this legacy is something to get excited about. These new engines are carrying forward the spirit of the original small block, delivering more power and capability than Louis Chevrolet and William Durant could have ever dreamed of over 100 years ago. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.